Don't panic, don't panic. Hi, everybody. Welcome to In the Trenches, episode 2. This week we're going to be talking internships. My name's Dylan Pierpont, and I'm here with a lovely group of people.
Yay!
We're going to try and talk about some of the experiences, trials, and pitfalls and triumphs of going through tribulations, going through our first internship. So I'm with Mr. Zach Madeir.
Yeah, that's right.
We got it right this time.
Say it one more time, just to.
Madeiri!
Okay. All right, I'm out. See you guys later.
I'm sorry.
So we got Grant Griffin. Come on, that's who's talking there.
What's happening, guys?
Hi guys. You guys already fucked this up.
No, dude, we're doing good. And our guests are with us. We got three guests today. It's a full house, so y'all can go ahead and take turns. Not all at once. Just calm down, everyone. Take turns. John, you want to go? Take the lead.
Hey! My name's John Baker. Yeah. So next.
Hi guys, I'm Crystal Sully. I'm an illustrator.
And I'm Alex Weeks, and I'm an illustrator as well, with a little bit of a game art focus.
Boom.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell I am anymore.
Yeah, way to just make everyone else look bad.
He's a wild card. Wild card.
Oh, yeah. It's putting it lightly.
So after our first talk, we had a few people in the audience kind of ask a few questions about internships. And some of the questions that come from either obtaining one and what it's like to work in a studio and kind of the day-to-day routine as far as that stuff goes. So I think kind of like what we did last time, it's kind of best to start from the beginning. How did you all find out about your first internship? Where did that all start?
From you guys. I mean,
yeah. Who actually? That's funny because that's how I got. Dylan was responsible for mine. So is that true for you too?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like it was pretty simple. Like all you guys were getting it. It was the only like big internship that was available at the time in REMCAD, and
The really only thing.
The relevant one.
dude, yeah, and it was everywhere. It was like the best artists were getting it, and like you guys were getting the best work out of it, and seemed to be happy at the time, and that's where it went. Like I just followed suit, picked your guys' brains, and then applied with Mr. Griffin.
It's true because we do have kind of a unique thing here where Alex and Grant and John, you guys were all interning at the same time. You guys were all there for the same semester. So that's gonna be fun to talk about. I'm curious to hear what that was like for you all.
Yeah, they actually they approached me. I didn't really know much about any internships, and my grad show for REMCAD, the guy came up and he's like, hey, if you'd be interested in our internship, we'd be happy to have you. And then just followed up with an art test and sent off resume and all that. Although it didn't have much because we were students at the time, but that's how I got mine.
Mine was probably the weirdest one here. I had heard about it online. Like my dad had pulled this one up. He pulled it up and he was like, Alex, look, there's this internship at this place in Denver, and I was like, I've never heard of this. I've never even considered this company, but I was focusing on game art at the time, so it was relevant enough for me that I tried to look into it more. I think I applied 2 different times, and the first time I never heard anything back. It was just kind of quiet from them, and then the second time was junior year. I had an instructor who actually worked contract with them. Cliff, he was an animator that was working on a project with them, and he was I had expressed interest in it. I don't even remember how it came up, but I mentioned it, and he's like, oh, I work for them. I could bring the AD in here, and Roger actually came to the school and did a portfolio review there in the class, in front of the whole class. And that's how I ended up getting the interview and stuff.
In front of the whole class, huh?
In front of the whole class.
What was that like?
Yeah. It was really scary, but I kind of mentally prepared for this kind of thing with my mentor, and because that's Carmen. For anybody that doesn't know, everybody here knows who Carmen is, but I've mentioned her a bunch of times. But Carmen Sinek was my mentor at the time, and she kind of helped me understand like critique and like not be afraid of it and stuff. But I was still scared shitless. Like it was still scary. And it was about 7 people in the class, I think, and 2 other people ended up following up after me because I took the bullet. I just went. I was like, "Hi, Roger," and stuff, because like I knew he was coming, and only a few other people like knew that this was gonna happen. So we just I kind of like started off, and then everybody else started bringing their stuff up. But it was scary because like we had the overhead, you know those like projectors in the front of the class, and like he like went through the whole deal, like critiquing each and every piece, like tearing it down analytically, like this is what you should have done, this is what you should have done here. And I was like sitting there like, huh, yeah, okay, sure, like you know, just soaking it up, but at the same time like trying not to run out of the room.
Did it sound like you had it, like it went like you thought you had a good chance with the internship, or were you just like, ah, shit, this is...
Yeah, I thought that was the last time I'd ever see him. I thought that was it. And
that's way better than any of us got, I think.
I thought it was really strange because I didn't know you guys at the time. Like I knew Zach.
I was about to say, I didn't know
Andy
you
at
at all.
all.
You were in the game art program, so we didn't know. I think me and John just thought we were the only 2 submitting as far as.
Yeah, we had no idea.
We were practically holding hands when we turned in our application.
we skipped to the email box together and sent it off.
Email box.
At the same time, we got some wine and some cheese. We just made a date out of it.
Yeah.
We didn't know.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
So Alex had kind of a critique for her portfolio, and Crystal, you said you had an art test. So what?
Oh.
Yeah, because I think that's kind of unique with this particular group. Like, what was that like? What was that experience going through an art test to a potential employer, essentially? What was that like?
Oh my God, it was damn scary. Straight out of college, I'm sure a lot of viewers can relate. You know, you don't know what you're doing. You're terrified. You have to hit whatever style this company's looking for, and they clue you in on everything you need to do, and you have to hit the mark. And I was absolutely like, no, there's no way I'm gonna get this. Like, I'm definitely not good enough for this like high quality stuff they want. But in the end, they ended up liking it quite a bit, I think. So I ended up getting that position, and that was also thanks to Raul, who was mentoring over me. He's the one who handled my art test and did a really great job giving feedback, and everything he said I could apply to all my personal work too. So it was really good.
Did you do it from home?
Yeah, I did.
Did they just give you a prompt and then like examples, and they were like, get this done by a certain time, and that was it?
Yeah, that was
What was
pretty
the
much.
time period like for that?
Yeah, which was it was really interesting too. I was terrified because they initially contacted me and said they wanted me to intern there, and then they asked for this art test, and I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna blow it. But no, they gave me about a week, which was at the time, graduating college, all of us like, a week? What? This is so hard. Now a week is amazing.
A week is awesome.
So
That
no,
week's hard.
I don't like it. Don't like looking back on that piece, but apparently it seemed to hit what they were looking for, so it got me into that internship, and I started out feeling kind of confident, like, okay, I think I did okay with what they were looking for.
You had the internship after us, right?
Yeah,
After
I didn't
you ran.
intern with any of you guys, but Dylan was working in-house, and that's actually how I came to really like get to know Dylan and become friends.
That's
So
when we started talking, yeah, because I don't think we ever spoke in school. Yeah, I
No.
think it was through Dyer, yeah.
Yeah, no, everyone was afraid of Dylan, so.
That was back in Dylan's school days when he didn't associate with anyone.
What are you talking about?
With his giant hoodies and his skateboards.
Skateboards?
I don't know.
Get out of here.
He's too good for those.
Did you guys? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you guys remember, like, even before the art test, did you guys have interviews?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that like?
Oh yeah. I listened to the podcast and it was essentially the same exact.
Wait, you had an art test too?
No. The interview.
Oh.
All right. So any awkward stories of blowing it? Because we already. I know that, like, John, you have to, like, keep yours to a minimum of like 5 minutes because you're just fucking awkward in general. So I know there's.
Oh man, dude, my interview was really funny. I remember going in and, like, I don't even know how long I was in there, maybe like an hour. You sign, like, NDA and do all this other stuff. And then when I walked in there, like, we talked like just normal people for a while, and I thought they were super awkward. But evidently they happened to tell somebody else that I was super awkward, and they
No.
I feel like they got rid of me too, because they didn't even give me a tour of the studio or nothing. Like, they were just like, yeah, so thanks for coming in. They just shook my hand and, like, showed me the door. And I was like, oh, well, that went awesome.
Wow.
And I didn't feel bad. Like, I was like, I know I'm an awkward dude. Like, we're all artists. We're bred to be awkward a little bit. But, like, for real, like, I don't know. I feel like they were the ones that were awkward, and it was not me. That's what I'm going with.
Keep telling yourself.
All right, fine. Make me feel bad.
Well, clearly you did good enough to land the
Yeah. All
Well, evidently it wasn't speaking skills or words, so it had to be my art. So hell,
spoke English. That was good enough.
that's good.
Or the fro.
But you were nervous, and I mean the interview didn't like
Well, no, I was
didn't exactly
nervous.
give you confidence afterwards, but you still ended up landing it.
Yeah, no, like, I was nervous when I was first going in there, and it was cool when I actually got in there, and everybody was like shaking my hand and, like, being nice and walking by, like, oh, you're gonna be for an internship and all this other stuff. I was like, oh yeah, but I don't know. It just got awkward, evidently.
I feel like we could all maybe relate to that, at least a little bit, because the environment, everyone was just really, really quiet and really into what they were doing and into their work. So it wasn't like this really, like, loud talking environment. So I was scared shitless too when I went in for my interview, and they just showed me the door as well. I didn't get a studio tour. So.
That's weird though, because when I was there, it wasn't quiet like that, and it wasn't like everybody was talking. Everybody, like, I think they all got lunch or something. Everybody seemed really nice, and, like, a bunch of people that I never even saw again introduced themselves to me while I was sitting there, and, like, it seemed awesome, and, like, it made me unnervous. But then I just sat in a room with two guys, and they just went over my portfolio. And was just like, you have any questions for us? And, like, of course I blanked for a little bit, and then thought of some random questions, and then they were like, all right, peace out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let you know. And I was like, oh, great. I was like, well, that was awesome experience. Now let's try to get something else.
And hopefully anyone listening too, you know, if they're thinking about doing any kind of internship, they can at least know that, like, yeah, you're going to be really nervous. You're going to think you're really awkward at first, and you just got to push through that. Like, everyone else has totally gone through that, and you're not this awkward, like, weirdo. It's scary.
Sometimes you are just the awkward weirdo, and you just have to accept it.
I'm definitely the awkward weirdo.
Check John out. That's how he lives his life.
Yeah, take some Pepto before you go. Do yourself a favor, take some Pepto.
It's unrelated, but it's just good advice in general before doing anything important.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the exact opposite, but I'm probably not something I should say.
So I'm kind of curious. This might be backpedaling a little bit, but what kind of stuff did you guys have in your portfolio that you
Total
submitted
shit.
for the internship, or you had at your grad show? What kind of stuff were they reviewing to kind of make that decision and say, yeah, we'd like to bring this person on?
Well, you guys, or at least I don't know, Alex, you were still in school though. Like
Yeah.
you still were like junior, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I was junior as well, so it was just schoolwork. Like Grant, you were like basically done, weren't you?
Yeah, that was my grad semester, so that was pretty much what I graduated with.
Yeah, so it was like right when it was like the end of junior year for me. So it was all like illustration class stuff basically, and like a couple paintings I did on my own.
Oh man, I was lucky enough to do that after graduating. So I had like the grad portfolio that college kind of gears you to send off to studios to get your first job. So I'm lucky enough to have that and not be a current student. That would have been really hard. And everything I had was creature work. So I was a bit nervous going in because I'd heard that they don't do just creatures. Obviously, they need someone who can do anything. So that's one of the things they sat me down and told me was like, hey, we need you to be, able to do a lot more than just creatures. So we're going to see what you can do and give you a lot of things that are probably really difficult for you. So that was part of the fun challenge and totally opposite of my portfolio.
Do you guys remember how many pieces you guys had? Because I had like 10 or 12, I think, and they were all bad.
In your portfolio, or that you completed at the internship?
No, in my portfolio that I sent to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was about 10 or 12 that I threw together on my last semester, and I tried to target direwolf
Well,
specifically for that.
we used some of our class stuff, didn't we, Grant, from like
The
concept stuff?
That was like half my portfolio was what we did in there because I didn't have anything else. And that's like when I first was learning Photoshop, really, that I was actually learning how to do stuff.
So you guys had a very traditional portfolio going in, right?
No,
I mean traditional work. Not you, Crystal. John and Grant.
Traditional, like you
Like
mean like
medium, non-digital.
Oh no, everything was digital for sure.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah. I just threw everything I had from that last semester, which was I was taking the digital 2, and then pretty much for my other classes, I kind of got to do whatever I wanted. Had some pretty cool teachers that let me do my own thing, so I was able to target more.
So did any of you guys have traditional work in your portfolio for applying?
I
think I had some drawing.
I think
I totally did.
Did you, Zach? I'm kind of curious because I've heard this question from art students before. Like, is it acceptable to put like life drawing and life painting and figurative work in there? Did you have some of that? Because it sounds like you had some traditional work.
Yeah, I think that was my traditional work was like some stuff where we had taken the model and sort of made them in like a more narrative situation than just standing on that podium. But that's was like what I had. I was only a student, applying for an internship, so the majority of my portfolio was like consequently life drawing stuff. But I don't think that didn't seem to be that big of an issue because they knew that they were hiring interns and that we were students, and I think they appreciated seeing that you were thinking about drawing the figure and stuff to a degree, but I certainly couldn't get away with it now.
What year did you get your internship, Zach? I don't remember because I know you were before me.
I got mine right after graduating, so that was 2012, I think. It was spring of 2012.
Huh. All right.
So.
One thing
You
that
were
was
right
actually
before us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were like right before us.
Mhm.
Did you have any like digital stuff in there? Anything like relatable to the work?
Yeah, I had some digital stuff. I had done some like things from Dune and some competitions on like conceptart.org.
Gotcha.
Like stuff like that.
So you had some of that to show that you at least knew the program and you could do all that.
Yeah. And that was helped by Raul. I had to ask Raul about a lot of that. So.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember picking his brain a little bit too with Grant before we like sent shit in.
I mean, it definitely helps to have like somebody who's been in the internship before or been at the company.
Right. Yeah.
I guess not everybody. That's something maybe we should preface this. Not everybody will be going to school with somebody who's
Yeah.
been in the internship.
Yeah, I didn't know him.
But I think you can kind of reach out and find those people. There was, like, when I was in New York, there was a girl who was interning somewhere. I was just looking at people who worked at the company off of LinkedIn, and I asked her what the internship was like there. So there's definitely resources for you guys listening who don't happen to be going to school with someone who's at an internship that you're interested in.
Yeah, there's definitely nice artists out there that will help you.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd be surprised that you just literally have to email someone and you'll get a response. Like I always felt that, it just is not a thing you do. Like I put all these artists on like huge pinnacles, and like I can't talk to them because they're just too good. And
Yeah, pedestaling is.
But a lot of them, like, we'll be happy to help you out. Depending on, of course, they're going to be busy as shit because I'm sure there's lots of people that are reaching out to them and whatnot. But, it's a numbers game. You keep sending emails out, and as long as you're not getting offended if they don't, respond back to you. So I guess the thing is it never hurts to just email someone and be polite and courteous and, just ask questions, and you'd be surprised, how many people actually respond back.
Yeah, I think the tendency is to feel like you're bothering them when, if you're bothering them, if you are bothering them, they're not going to send you something angry back. They're just not going to.
Just not going to respond.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might send an email back, be like, "You're bothering me, boy. Leave me alone. Leave me alone." I'm just kidding. No, I wouldn't. I'm not that mean.
So okay, so you guys, you find, the studio, you apply, you do an art test, you do the interview. It's your first week on the job. What are some of the things that you remember that were like very different from how the working pipeline or the flow of everything differed from being in school? Being an illustration major at a primarily traditionally based school to now working in a more fast-paced, like, professional studio entertainment environment. What was that like?
Not everyone.
It was like surreal, to be honest. Like at first, like I didn't believe it, like especially after evidently being super awkward and like not doing a great interview. Like when I got called back and had to sign and be like, "Hey, you can come in on these days, work out your hours, we know you got class, all this other stuff." It was interesting that they were like, that I got it, and then like when you first started working there, like at least I had two other people that were from the school to like, I don't know, be nervous with and like talk to at lunch a little bit. Like me and Grant would get up and like just bother each other about random stuff so we could stay sane. I don't know, like, it was weird.
Yeah, we didn't take lunches. No way. We just ate lunch at our desks, me and the people I interned with. But no, that was scary because I had just graduated, so I took on the internship just full-time, 40 hours a week. So that was really a culture shock, kind of just, getting up at really early in the morning, sitting down in the studio, working until 5 or 6, and usually staying late. And then, going home. And that was something that was really new, but I feel like was kind of an example of what it would be like to work full-time in a studio. So I was just thinking, wow, this is, this must be what it's like. And, everyone was so busy that most of the time, like me and the other interns would just sit there in our little desks and just eat our lunch, like, over our Intuos tablets, just while painting.
That's so sad.
That's what I did, too.
That's what I did, yeah.
I didn't go out for lunch.
Did y'all feel nervous or something for, like, if y'all were going to get in trouble for leaving, or y'all just...
I think maybe that was part of it. I mean, we didn't necessarily really, like, get invited out to lunch, and I know every single person I was interning with wasn't really from the city. We were all from, like, neighboring cities that were kind of far away. So we didn't know Denver very well, like where to go eat or anything until one day, me and one of the other interns, we were like, you know what, screw it. We just, put down our pens. We're like, let's go find somewhere to eat today. And we just got up and we found a smash burger or something down the road. We were so proud of ourselves.
Up on 16th Street.
That is really weird because me and Grant would just leave for lunch. Like we didn't want to stay in there the whole time. Like
I couldn't handle it. It was too dark and scary.
No, it was too scary. It was too quiet. Like, man, I had to get up and take a break. So we just left. Even if I didn't know where I was going, I was just like, dude, I need to get some food. Even if I didn't even have lunch with me, I was just like, I just need to take an hour.
Dude, we were probably the worst interns ever.
I think us three set quite a record for getting up away from the studio.
There was always, I don't think we ever sat down together. There was always one of us that was just meandering around or like
Well, like
rotation.
It wasn't like how I am, you know what I mean? Like even when we were all working in the shore building at school, like we would get up and talk to each other and get help and do all this stuff. And it was like the complete opposite. It wasn't like a team environment for me. It was very like closed and focused. And I didn't know like if I was supposed to be like that, but I can't work like that all the time. So I was like, man, I got to get up. So I would like go talk to other people, mostly Grant or Bug Raul until like he was like, all right, you need to go sit back down. Or just go outside and get some air for like 5 minutes.
I had to get air often. I got like, you don't remember I was in that corner, right? For the first few weeks. I just didn't know what to do. I felt scared and I was like a little rabbit. I just had to go outside and like shed a few tears, clean up my face, come back in, don't see me crying. And
I remember visiting the studio. I completed my internship and I had come back just to kind of say hi and meet up with a few of the people that were still there. And it was while you guys were interning. And I knew Grant and I knew John pretty well. I didn't know you, Alex, and I think I was the AD was taking me on a tour around, and I was looking over your shoulder. I think you looked back like once, and then went back to work.
Don't make eye contact.
Didn't say
I was
anything.
scared of you because I knew who you were. I mean, I knew you by your art. Like I knew your name by your art because I like to like brush up on everybody that's at RimCAD, but I didn't know you. So I just knew your art. I was like, oh, this guy's really good. Keep my head down.
Well, and that studio, I mean, the studio itself, as you guys kind of already touched on, was it was a very focused, intensive sort of environment to be in. So like that was kind of, for a lot of people, that was sort of the I don't know, that was kind of the vibe and the mentality. So I didn't know if that was, because you were that way, or because everyone kind of starts to fall into that sort of mindset of, okay, it's time to work, it's time to focus, it's time to get this stuff done.
If you think about it though, like when we were all in shore working together, like like us as friends, like I expected a studio to be like that. You know what I mean? Like there were times where we were quiet and focused because we had to get stuff done and we had the work ethic to get it done. But there was like times where it's like, man, you gotta let it go a little bit, not stress. It looked like everybody was stressing and trying to get shit done so fast, man. It was not a thriving environment for me, dude. In that aspect.
I felt I was actually kind of more one of the people that I liked the quiet environment. And to me, I didn't get up because I didn't feel like I had deserved it.
Yeah.
Like I was sort of like, I need this time. Like the first day I worked there, I sat down in that chair at 8 p.m. and then didn't get up literally until 6 at night. I sat in that chair the whole first day, and I ate lunch at my desk, and I would be picking up a sandwich in between paint strokes. Like I couldn't.
I just see you with like a flail every time you like sit idle for 30 seconds or something.
And
it wasn't that they would like work you to death. It was just that I was scared shitless that like I was we talked about this earlier, but we'll probably pick it up again. But the deadline thing was just like how I have no idea how I would get this done, and I was freaking out the whole time.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say too. That like I don't know how you guys like felt okay. I mean, it's all power to you. I wish I could have done that, but like I did not feel like I had the time to get up and go and get food somewhere because we had 2 days to get a lot of work done. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this done in the first place. So I need to just sit down and work through lunch. And I felt like I was giving myself this extra hour. And, kind of like what Zach was saying, I think it's maybe different, personality types too. Because at REMCAD, our college we went to, I wasn't really one of those people who would like stay and joke around, and sure, I was one of those people in the corner with the Cintiq to myself for 8 straight hours with my headphones on just painting.
Yeah.
So it's like the sit down and get shit done was always my mentality there.
I feel
like
now
I lacked the discipline, honestly, and looking back, I know I lacked the discipline for that kind of thing, and that's one of my biggest regrets. But I won't get into that too far. But I think at that point in time, on this timeline of freelance and illustration and stuff, that was my one of my worst periods where I just was not disciplined to do this right, and I learned from it the hard way. So
I don't know if it was joking around though, like, you know what I mean, or at least to me, like, it didn't seem like it was just like a break. Like, if you paint straight for an hour and you're looking at a screen for an hour straight, like, taking a minute break just to stand up and stretch your legs and sit back down and get back to work wasn't a big deal to me. And like, I remember them.
You definitely, like, now I can say that I definitely, like, should have taken some breaks. Like, it's a matter of perspective where I was like, you know what, by not taking a break, I was doing worse, and by freaking out over the amount of time I had, I was making it worse.
It relieved me, like, especially since Grant was there, like, us going to lunch and then being like just talking about how hard it is and how many times we had to fix a freaking hand like 6 million times because somebody didn't like it, or we had to change it and all this other stuff. There are all these different things. Like, man, that was tolling. Like, I needed a break to be like, huh, all right, compose, get back to it.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah, I guess I'm with Zach. I felt like I didn't deserve it. I was like, no, I'm not hitting my deadlines. I need to, do this. And once I get to point A, I can take a break. But then once I hit point A, I was like, oh, shit, I'm still not where I need to be. So once I hit point B, I'll take a break. And I'd go the whole day without getting out of that chair, period, until 6 p.m. And then sometimes I'd stay till like 7:30.
You know what? I wonder if that has to do with the fact that you guys were post-grad. Like, do you think that had anything to do with that mentality?
Well,
maybe, because we were there. It was, I mean, not that anyone else didn't do it full time.
No,
we all put a lot of time into it, but 5 days a week, every day, I was there, like, from, what was it? It was like 9 to 6 or 9 to 5 or something. But, yeah, I guess I was like, no, I'm only going to be taken seriously if I act like a serious professional, and serious professionals don't get to go get lunch. That's so stupid. Everyone's listening. That is so stupid.
Well, I'm kind of in that same camp for my internship, because that's how I treated it. When I started, they actually, I think I was only there 3 days a week, and I don't remember why that was. I don't think they offered it like full time. And I did the 3 days a week for, I don't even think it was a full month. I think it might have been 2 or 3 weeks. And then I was like, well, I'm graduated. I'm not, I don't have another job. And I'm living at home. Like, I can do more. So I elected to do, 4 days. And by the very end, I was doing, a full 40 hours. And then some, actually, because they would do crunch time. And I was even told, like, you don't have to stay. Like, the rest of the studio is required to stay, X amount of hours till we get this done or whatever. You don't have to stay. You're not an employee. You're just an intern. I was like, no, I want to be in the same, same boat as you guys. I want to have that same experience, so I know what it's like to be a working professional.
They got to deal with you, man.
But see, that was my choice. That was, like, I chose to do that. And I think that added a lot of stress that, like, what Zach experienced. Like, it started to compound on itself on top of it. It wasn't just the hours. It was also for me, the environment, having someone kind of looking over your shoulder periodically. Like, I felt like we sort of got that in school. But then again, you'd have, like 2-3 weeks to work on a project in school. And for us, you get into the studio, and for me, my first job on the internship, the deadline was a day. like you were expected to have a piece done by the end of the day. You show up at 9 and you leave at 6 with a finished illustration. And that was a huge like artistic culture shock, if you will, like for me. Like that was nuts. So to have the pressure of trying to meet this deadline and then being scrutinized by someone who, you know, has been doing this for over a decade or whatever, and has all this experience and has shipped, you know, so many titles and blah blah blah, like that was stress, man. That that was hard. That was really hard.
That brings up an interesting thing I wanted to another topic or another like view of what it was like there is I kind of felt like yeah, you were expected to have all of this, like you did have like an art director for the first time, and that was kind of scary. You had him looking over your shoulder at your work, but I also kind of felt like you were like just expected. You were held to this higher expectation, and there wasn't as much guidance as there was in school. Like, this is a weird story, but I hope it'll make sense. But I kind of remember like the first time I played sports in high school. It was the first time I'd been like on a sports team. And I like we had a coach and everything, and I got hurt. And I remember being like, oh well, like the coach knows I'm hurt. Like he's not gonna make me do these like push-ups and stuff. But he like looked at me because I was standing over the side, and he was like, "What are you doing?" Like, "To push-ups." And I was like, "Oh, my thumb." I didn't understand like that, how he didn't know, but it was sort of felt like that at the internship, where it was like, "Oh, I gotta take care of myself. Like, if I don't get this done, that's not a good thing. Like, I can't just not get this done."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in school, maybe you could kind of show up and be like, "Oh, you know, like, can I get an extension?" It was like for the first time. I don't know. Does that make sense? Did you guys?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you weren't done, you were cut off, and that was it. You don't get to work on that anymore.
I saw our internship kind of as like an audition for a job. That was the stress for me. Like it was like, hey, like you got to do this, and then maybe you can get a job like your buddy Raul over there that's getting like paid for this right now. Whereas I don't know, but like I feel like if I sat there though and I just like was scared of them the whole time, it would have made it a lot worse, and I would have done worse work. I would have just like freaked out more.
See, I needed to have more of that mindset, because I did let that pressure kind of get to me, and I think Zach's absolutely right, because when you're in school, like really you're holding yourself accountable. It's your grade, it's your portfolio, it's your experience. But for us, like, you know, we had the fortunate opportunity to like be working on like projects, like on properties. You know, they were things that were getting made, and other people relied on you doing your job. It wasn't just, you know, yeah, if you didn't make it, well, you can get an extension. Like, someone down the line needs to use that piece of artwork, and if it's not done, you know, you're backing up the pipeline here. That was always kind of in the back of my mind, and that was not. I don't know that was. It wasn't something that I needed to have at the forefront of my mind, I don't think. I feel like I could have done without that nagging sensation and focused more on getting a quality piece, rather than, you know, my head is wrapped around what's going to happen to it if I don't finish it. Like,
yeah, I think that would be an interesting like topic, is like what was working in the professional like situation like that, what you guys expected it to be like, your expectations of the things they expected of you. Did that surprise you, or
like the art, what was expected of me to produce?
The professional pipeline? Like, did you like? I think maybe like even the quality of work. Like, how often did you find yourself thinking like, oh man, this isn't what I expected?
I was totally surprised by the 2-day deadline at first. That was
it
was like a slap in the face. It was like, wait. You know, they show you examples of what people are doing for their property, and they're like, okay, we need that in 2 days, and you're going to do it. And you're just like, oh my God, seriously? You want what?
I just thought I wasn't going to be good enough with that in mind, that deadline.
Oh, me too.
I was like, oh, I guess I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah,
ever.
me too. And I left thinking like, wow, man, if that's what the studio gig is like, I can't do that. Like, I'm not good enough for that. And then, you know, now knowing what we know that every studio is different and deadlines can vary to not being just 2 days.
Oh yeah. Well, and I want to make note that 2 days to like people that are listening. 2 days was like 16 hours. When they first told me 2 days, I was like, oh, 48 hours. That's a lot of time. It's like no, 2 days that you're sitting in house working.
Right.
Was
not taking it home.
Yeah.
Was that? Did they give you a similar deadline, Crystal, for your art test? Did they mention that your art test had to be completed in those 2 days, or were they more focused on like the quality and the subject matter and that kind of stuff, and then you found out the 2 days kind of on your first day on the job?
Oh, luckily, Raul was really great with my art test, and he gave me, I think, about a week, because, I had no clue what I was doing, and I had at first, no guidance. I just sent in thumbnails that I thought would be good enough, let's hope they like it kind of thing. And then as he started seeing that I was, a bit slower, he extended it a little bit just to make sure that they could get that quality out of me if they could get me to paint a little bit faster. So I got a little over a week, I think, to do mine, like a work week, so like 5 days.
Gotcha.
So that was, and even then, I was like, man, that was really hard because you have revisions, the approval. Honestly, that was like a small taste of what freelancing is like, because we were communicating online, and I'd get revisions back, and I'd have to redo an entire set of thumbnails, and then that took me an entire day because I had no idea how to manage my time for thumbnails and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a huge shock when like 5 days kicked my ass, and then I got in there, and they were like, "Yep, 2 days." I was like, "Oh man, I won't be able to do this." But by the end of my internship, I think I hit like maybe 3 or 4 images that they liked in about 2 days. So I was like, I felt really proud of hitting that mark, but still was really stressful.
That's funny because I feel like my art test was actually that first week in Dyer. Like I didn't have an actual art test, but they did that for me. They were like, "Here's your prompt. Here's what you have to do, and we want you to get to this quality, and we want you to get to there as fast as you can, but don't feel rushed about it." Or at least that's what Raul told me. Was like, "Don't feel rushed about it. Just get to this fast." And then I remember they were like, "Well, we'll give you like a week." They started saying.
Yeah, I felt like they were a little more laid back on art deadlines. I remember a few of them, like they were just like, "Oh, I can get a week to do this," and they were just mostly concerned about us hitting the mark as opposed to hitting 2 days.
It was like the first
time I was there, dude, I didn't hit one in 2 days. That was unheard of for me. I could not work that fast. Like I never hit a 2-day deadline. I think the best I did was 3.
Yeah.
But I never hit that in 2 days. Maybe they just gave up on me. I don't know, but I wasn't getting like kicked out. Like they still let me finish the cards and then give me helpful feedback throughout the whole thing. But,
Agreed.
Yeah, I think I got like close, but I didn't hit it either. But it was like for like a simple card too. You know what I mean? It was like one of the last ones. They were like, "We'll give you something simple, see if you can hit it." Still didn't hit that shit.
Yeah.
Really? They gave me really hard ones that like were meant to challenge, what I could do, like a scene with multiple characters in it, or a character with a detailed background and a big action scene, that kind of stuff. And I
never got any of that shit. They didn't trust me.
How much did you guys struggle with the genre? Like,
the genre?
Yeah.
Sorry, your thing cut out.
Sorry. Yeah, the genre. Like, some of us, I think, were working on some fantasy stuff. Some of us were working on some other kinds of like genres of like fighting kind of things like that.
All I did was the fantasy, and I don't know. It was definitely different. It wasn't something I've normally done, but like if you had the good fundamentals and like all the life drawing, you could just
add a chain there.
Yeah, like you could add you had the assets, so basically it was just like you just kind of follow the assets and add stuff to it. So it wasn't super hard. I mean, swords, armor, like all that kind of stuff. It wasn't too bad to get to, I guess.
And most of the stuff we were painting, they already had strict guidelines of this character has to look this way, so we didn't really have to make anything up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I had an armor piece I had to do at one point where they were like, "Oh, well, this person isn't in this area with that armor, so you have to redo the armor." And then they gave me like pictures of that armor. They were like, "Well, here's what it looks like. You can tweak it a little bit, but it's got to be in this design sense, in these shapes. So do it that way." So it wasn't really like, I don't know. It was more of meeting the deadline and the detail
I
than
struggled. Sorry.
than the genre. But yeah, you can go now.
I struggled with the genre as illustration actually because I hadn't done any full illustrative compositions. I had been mostly doing like what I would call like something of concept art before then. That was very difficult for me, was making scenes out of the genre. So I guess I actually think I did have a lot of difficulty with it now that I think about it.
I had a lot of problems with it. 'Cause, like, so a lot of my influences, like, growing up were, like, The Matrix and Blade and Riddick, like, all these, like, sci-fi, you know, completely not, like, I don't know, like, fantasy-based stuff.
Epic fantasy.
And that was hard. That was really hard. And I remember for the first, I think, week, or it might have even been the first 2 weeks, we were actually doing some basic concept stuff that hadn't been seen before. So that really was sort of my first experience with you know, the studio, was trying to concept in a genre that was not my comfort zone at all. And that was hard for me to kind of like wrap my head around. Okay, different materials at that point, you know, materials that I hadn't ever had to paint or draw before. You know, different styles. You know, once you started thinking about how culture like sort of played its part in designing certain armor sets and things, like that was not easy for me by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, like you said, it's the concepts though. Like you did some of the designing stuff that became assets for us. You know what I mean? Like that's different. Like if it was that way, I would have a lot of trouble too. But that was the thing. Like it was like I could look at a cheat sheet almost and be like, all right, well, like the armor looked like this, and like I know how to render metal to some extent, not well, but like I don't know. I don't
see. I had that too. Like later on, I'm just saying, like the concept stage was very early in my internship, and then the rest of it was, you know, painting from style guides and stuff like that. And even with that, you know, quote unquote cheat sheet, that was hard. That was hard for me. It wasn't something I was used to. I didn't know how to make it, you know, have that cool factor, even though I really had all the tools right there at my disposal to make it cool. Like it was very hard to screw it up, I suppose. But with the deadline and just the new, you know, material, or the new styles and stuff that I had to think about, and just the environment itself, like all that together culminated in something that was a rough experience for me. I think I started to get it later on, near the last last week or two of my internship. It started to click.
Oh man, it's too late.
I'm a crazy one here, but like I really enjoy that genre. I grew up like all through high school obsessed with like Game of Thrones, Terry Goodkind series, Knights and Dragons, you know, that kind of like knights in shining armor fighting their epic dragons, you know, like bedtime stories kind of stuff. So I had never really been able to do it because I had just focused on creature work in college. So they were at first really trying to challenge me, like, oh, we're going to give you some people, some really hard stuff that we didn't see in your portfolio. And then eventually they're like, okay, that didn't work so well. So they kind of catered creatures and things more that I really wanted to do to me. So that made it a lot more bearable. I felt a little bit more accomplished, that I could create something in this genre that I had always really admired.
Yeah, I agree. I did like that a little bit, how they did cater it, like after a while, but at first they challenged you, because I remember like I was like, I want to do environments, and they were like, well, here's some armor and here's a person, have fun. And I was like, what? They were like, you don't even have to do the environment in this one that much. Like it's just like a simple scene. And I was like, oh. And then they just kept doing it, and like it was a pain in the ass. But then finally, when I got to an environment, I fudged it up hardcore.
And I remember because you had one that wasn't, and like our first thing we got, like yours didn't have much of an environment, and I was so jealous because mine was covered in rocks. and I must have painted these rock formations for about 2 days. I think why I couldn't hit the 2-day deadline, I was just painting rocks for 2 days. Like, no, these are too similar. No, not enough hard edges. I was just like painting rocks for 2. I was losing my fucking mind.
Do you remember the first piece I did? Like I had to do like the armor, and they had said like, oh, you could put chainmail on the armor, and I spent like 6 to 8 hours, you know, on this chainmail that was like this little piece of nothing. That when you look at the card, you can't even see the chainmail. Like you have to have me point it out, but I'm still damn proud of that chainmail.
Yeah, I'm with you guys because since they tailored creatures to me, I probably spent that entire 3 months painting fur, like just nonstop, and so that was really cool.
Nah, man, they gave all the creatures to Raul when I was there. They didn't give us any creatures, or at least
I
not
didn't
me.
do a single creature.
But
I was really grateful for that. They saw certain types of creatures that apparently they liked that I produced, and then kept giving me things that.
Typecast.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, which was cool. I know it's like, you know, you don't want to just be known for one thing, but man, when that helps you get this shit done in like 3 days, that sure was nice. So mad props to Raul for sharing his creatures with me.
Yeah, he doesn't do that. You know, you got the lead illustrator getting all the hot chicks, and then you got Raul grabbing all the pictures, and then I'm getting like boots on walls and stuff. Like, cool. Thanks, guys.
I actually like the props, which is funny because that's what I like to do now, and that's what I do mostly now is like props for stuff. So like it's funny that they actually like they found it out back then. They were like, oh, he's good at those. Keep him going.
Totally. So I mean, we weren't always doing like illustrations though. Did you guys have to do any grunt work, and were you expecting that, or what degree did you guys have to do stuff like that too?
I didn't expect this, but I still had it in the back of my mind, the whole grabbing coffee for people thing. Never happened once. Nothing like that ever happened. I think the most that we did was that spin-off on the other project. Because they were on a crunch, so they needed like extra hands on that. But it wasn't illustration.
I think I'm the only person that didn't have to do any of that.
Dude, I was the bitch of our intern. all the stuff that we weren't signed up to do for the illustration, like what they told us that we were going to be doing at the internship. Like I would be doing that, and they were like, "Hey, Grant, we got some side thing for you," and I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm getting like some fucking special. What's up?"
No, I
Give me the ball. I'm ready. And they're like, "All right, crop these images to fit this format." So, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" And yeah, it was like a week of that.
The more I think about it, now I do remember I did have to do thumbnails for a different project that they made me do once, and I had to test out a game while two people were watching me how I played it. Like after I watched the tutorial that they did, they like were like over my shoulder, like basically like in my ass, like watching me like with hawk eyes to see how I played it, to see if like I did it the way they wanted. They're just like testing it out on like new eyes, I guess. I do remember doing that, but that was fun.
Yeah, I would rather be doing that than cropping cards.
I got to play a card video game for a little bit, but I mean, yeah, I never had to do like bitch work like that or like get coffee or any of that stuff.
I expected a little more playtesting in a studio, but not that I was like, oh, I want it, I want the playtesting stuff, but I did expect like a little bit more of it, just from our perspective, since we were not on this project for a long time, not even on that specific project, but I don't know, I felt like that's something that I anticipated before even showing up to the company.
What about you guys? Did you have to do any of that, Zach?
I had to do some cropping of some like kind of placeholder images that was going into a running like testing version of the game, for like QA and stuff, and I spent like a couple days doing that out of the. I mean, if you figure interned for like 3 months or whatever, like I spent like a couple days just doing nothing but that, and so it wasn't always that much fun. And we also did some stuff with some really specific IPs that the company was working on, that had like pre-approved images, and they were really, really picky about what we could use and what was approved by the parent company, and that got to be pretty tedious, and it wasn't really anything exciting. It was like painting over photos that had been approved by like the parent company, and I was like, what is this? This isn't even like, yeah. I remember thinking like, oh, this is how this is done, or like, there's interns doing this kind of stuff. So.
Did they take you away from like doing like your main project to just like do that like randomly?
Yeah, they would take me away from the image I was working on to work on some stuff like that. Like it would be like, hey, we're gonna have you stop on that, and we got this whole Excel sheet of like things that we need stand-in images for, and so I would do stuff like that, and just grab photos or whatever, and it was all internal stuff meant for them.
Dang.
So.
Yeah, I didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
Do you guys think you hit the quality like ever, or do you think like?
I think at the very, very end, I feel like I did, just because I remember at one point one of the mentor guys who was just amazing and helped me out with like everything I needed help with. They kind of like take you aside for your review, and I think most internships are the same way. At the end, they kind of tell you, oh, you started out here and you ended here, and he pulled me aside and he's like, you've improved like the most of anyone we've seen. Like, I can't believe you went from this to this. It doesn't look like the same artist. And I had been just kind of busting my ass this whole time at this internship with not much like positive reinforcement, because they're really trying to like push us. So that was just sweet, sweet music to my ears to be like, oh, I did it. I did good. I did something good. So I was told anyways that at the very, very end of this 3-month crazy internship that I hit their mark at one point, maybe with like 1 or 2 images.
Anyone else?
I don't know how I feel about answering that. I maybe not style-wise. I can answer no style-wise. I don't think I hit their mark. I think level of finish maybe, but reliability and style probably not. Probably not.
It took me. I remember it took me quite a while to start getting into the groove. I suppose as far as the style went, and I felt like that kind of goes hand in hand with the genre. That was another thing that I was trying to figure out at the time. So like pairing this genre with this set pre-approved style and trying to match that so it looked like everyone else's artwork. That was tough for me. It was tough. I felt like I started to get it probably the last month and a half while I was there, and quality too. I think that started to show through near the end. But yeah, it did take a while. That was a learning curve for me. It took a while.
It felt good though, didn't it? Like toward the end, I don't know.
It did, yeah, it did. Because I remember when I would work on images in the beginning, like I wasn't sure, when I would put it up for review, and call the AD or the lead artist over and say, hey, could you take a look at this? Like, I remember it was always, I was like, my fingers were crossed. I'm like sweating bullets, hoping that they're going to be like, yeah, that looks good, move on. And every time I heard like, oh, you got to do a little more here, whatever, like I just hang my head in shame, like, oh God, I still didn't do it. I still didn't get it. And that started to happen, less and less frequently near the end. And that was a sign that I felt like I was starting to improve.
Yeah.
There was fewer revisions. Things things started to gel, and I could, my affirmation of that was from the higher ups. When they would look it over and say, yeah, that looks good, it's like, okay, I did what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I feel like mine was always a little hit and miss, because towards the end I thought I was getting it, but like then I found out that you Dylan, you actually had to go in and like repaint like 3 of my images, I think, once you started working there. So I apologize for putting that on you.
That's what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
But I remember one that I was working on. And I thought I was starting to get the style down. And it was a male character. I was like, oh yeah, this face is looking crispy. Hey yo, art director, why don't you come check this out? And he was like, came over there, looked at it, and like, hey, it looks a little manly. Yeah, so I'll just repaint this.
No, I don't remember exactly what he told you, but I remember you were so happy with how it was going, and you were cocky about it at lunch. You were like, dude, it's going good. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're happy with this one, man. And then sure enough, no, man, you gotta fix this big area. Well, I didn't know. I thought it was good, too.
That was our
And he was like, you gotta fix this area right here. This is the main focus, and it's like this big-ass area. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Grant. Big kick to the nuts right there, which I mean is good at some extent, but yeah, man, that was.
You start to see things. You start to see things differently. I feel because like what you feel in I guess your artistic eye or whatever, you feel as acceptable or as killer or whatever, because you don't know all the things to kind of look out for. So when someone points it out to you, and then it becomes kind of like blatantly obvious that you didn't see it, like that was really hard for me to try and accept. It's like, oh, why didn't I see that? Like, like I could have sworn this was perfect, and now that you point this out, you're like, no, you're right. That entire hand is screwed.
I feel like that's
see again.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good sign of growth, though. Like the fact that every single day, when they would come over and be like, no, that face is jacked, you got to rework that face, you got to, do A, B, and C. Every day we were like, oh my God, you're right. What did I do yesterday? But I feel like being able to actually see that is like a huge sign that at least we were learning and improving and able to see what we were doing wrong. Because that's like, I feel like as artists, sometimes the hardest thing is you look at something for so long that you're comfortable in your skill level where you're at that you don't see anything wrong with it. So when you start seeing things wrong with stuff like that, I feel like that's a good sign.
Yeah. That's funny. It's actually something that I still like. I still get like I mean, even for projects where like Grant and you and Dylan and I have worked on something recently, and I'll still get feedback where I'm like oh my God, like how did I not see that? Like, it's kind of like, it's kind of scary, or like, at first maybe I'll be like, in my own head, I'll be kind of like defensive, like, no, it's fine. And then when they say something, I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a great idea. I have to do that now. And I don't know if you ever get over that, or like whether all these guys that we think are just untouchable still get feedback from their art director where they're like, why didn't I know that? Like, why didn't I know to do that?
Dude, I still get that to like this day. Like yesterday I was just like talking to Vic, who we're friends with, and he was like, dude, this piece looks exactly like this, and I was like, fuck. I was like, God damn it. And he was like, you should try it this way. And then I did what he said, and I was like, oh, I should have just seen that from the start. Damn it.
Well, that kind of brings up. Oh, sorry, Dylan, you go ahead.
I think we're about to say, like, I think that's one of the important things of having kind of a network of people that you can rely on, because you're going to have people that are there to kind of give you that feedback, whether you're in the studio or outside in a freelance setting or whatever. Like, being able to have that group of people to kind of lean on is pretty imperative, I feel, to having, to continuing progression and growth and all that kind of stuff. It just happened, what Zach said, it just happened recently with a private piece that I've been working on, and I want to show it off, and I want it to be awesome, and he pointed out something where it's like, whoa, that's a way better solution than what I had done. Like, thanks, man. So it's, that was something that I think school started to teach really well. And then for me, that was just kind of reiterated in the internship setting, because that's gonna be how the professional workplace operates. You're gonna have people that are giving you feedback. It's gonna be very rare where you're tasked with doing something you submit a final piece, and you're like, yeah, that's great, go, like, move on. You know, you're going to have revisions.
And on top of that, there's odds are going to be multiple people reviewing it too. That was another thing that took a bit of getting used to, is not just having your one teacher say, okay, yeah, this is good, keep going, do this, do that. You know, you had a couple different people walk by and looking at it, and higher ups looking at it, and you know, everyone would have something different to change. And you know, sometimes, and I know this happens with like all studios, sometimes those things didn't add up together, like they would kind of conflict with each other. So I feel like learning how to handle all that was a pretty valuable thing that we all took away from the internship.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, was learning that nothing is sacred. Because I used to get, I think I already talked about this in the first one too. I can't remember, but just the whole letting go, and you know, not being afraid to change your stuff just because you're attached to it. You put so much, it's like your baby, you know, and you gotta just kill it.
Did you guys ever think that they were fucking with us the whole time though? Like that was their whole point, was they were trying to teach us that? Like on days where they were like, you need to fix this area, and then you'd fix it, and then someone else would come over, nah, it's still not good. Fix it back. And then you do it like 6 or 7 times, and it would go back almost to the same spot.
You know,
and they'd be like, oh no, that's good. It's almost like, I don't know. I feel like,
you know what's
to
funny
some
about
extent,
that?
maybe.
Is I had an art test recently, and this is kind of straying. But I had an art test recently, and a bunch of us went to GDC, and I heard some advice at GDC that would lead me to believe that in some situations they totally do that. I think in art tests they do a lot of that. I mean, that's a whole nother, maybe a topic for another podcast.
Yeah,
art tests,
I have words about that. I think.
But for internships, I do have a feeling that they might be purposefully trying to get you to come up to your boundaries and try and cross them, or be aware of where they are.
Because I remember times where Raul would just look over my shoulder and he'd give me like this face, like just like this, like he wanted to say something but he wasn't gonna say. He wanted to see if I saw it myself, and he'd just walk away. He'd come back like 10 minutes later and give me the same face. I'm like, shit, I missed it.
He would actually specifically do that for me, and that actually was really good. Like,
oh no, I liked it.
Yeah, he would come over and I would say, okay, I'm done with this specific part of this piece, this step. What do you think? And he would look at me and go, well, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
We worked on it. And I'd be like,
that.
oh shit, my head just
What do
went
you
through
think?
a whole loop, and then I'd sit there and look at it. And just because he told me to think about it, I would see all sorts of stuff I didn't see before, which is bizarre. It was really strange, but it really helped a lot.
It goes back to that idea, I think, of being, kind of, you have all this expectations now, but there's more weight put on you. You know what I mean? It's kind of, this is my lame story about having an injured hand in high school sports. Is like, it was kind of like you're pulling a lot more of the weight now. Like it was like, well, what decision would you make? Like, it might be an internship, but now you're in this professional environment. Like, we chose you to do this, and so there's more confidence, more trust, but also more weight put on you, I think.
Well, and they know too that we're not always going to have an internship environment where someone's constantly coming over and kind of holding our hands and showing us what to do next. And that was totally him preparing me for that. Was like, no, you need to be able to identify in advance what's wrong with your image and what you need to do next. Because sometimes I would totally rely on him. I'd go get him and be like, hey, I'm done with this step. What do I do? And he's like, you know what to do. Like, what do you think you should do next? And then I'd be like, oh, I haven't really thought about it because I was relying on asking you. So it really made me look at my own work, like, a year after that internship and be like, okay, I really need to just critically think about every single step of my own work and take a step back and look at it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
a lot of that was like prepping us for potential use later, because a lot of us were they brought on to freelance after the internship, so that was them kind of like, all right, we're not going to be there to over your shoulder making sure you're working, and they wanted to make sure you knew how they operate so you could potentially work for them down the line with little bumps in the road.
I think it's indicative to just freelance in general, though. Like, whether it was with them or not, like, it's just that fact that I don't have somebody like that to just, like, go over 5 feet and be like, hey, check this out. Like, tap them on the shoulder. Like, come look at this. Is this good now? Is this far enough detail? Like, nah, man. Figure that shit out on your own. Because if you just send it off to somebody, they're like, oh, come on, you know better than this. Like, they're not going to just...
No, definitely, and I think that's one of the things that I don't think I really learned until I came back to do some in-house work for them, as far as like communication between the AD or the lead artist and stuff like that. Like when I was interning, I took a very like passive role. I was there to learn. So if they had something to say about whether it was a revision,
you just listened.
I was like, yep, okay, I'm going to do that. And if that conflicted with what one of the other artists were saying, then I tried to appease both people, and I didn't really like voice any concern. I was just like, okay, well, if he's saying this and he's saying that, so I'm going to try and do both and make everyone happy. And I learned to be a bit more independent, I think, when I came back and ask more questions. And say like, well, hey, this is the direction we were taking for this. How is this new piece of feedback or whatever, how is that going to fit in, or how do you see that working with this composition, or whatever the problem solving happened to be? Like I think that was another thing that kind of added to the stress that I was putting on myself, is that I wasn't asking enough questions. I learned, I feel, a bit too late in the game that you should be asking questions.
That is an important thing, I think, to take, because I was the same way, because you're too afraid to ask questions almost because you want to sound like an idiot. But then when you don't ask the questions, you just kind of like, well, just kind of wing it. And then
and you actually look like an idiot.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency to feel like you're being a bother, when really what's going to take up more of their time and annoy them later is if you went ahead with something where maybe you assumed something, or I mean, it's a fine balance, which I think is part of what the internship process is all about.
Damage control.
I still, yeah.
Yeah, because
I remember
you don't understand like exactly. At least me. I don't know about you guys, but they be saying something? I'm like, yeah, totally. No, I got you. Sounds good. And then I'm just thinking, what the fuck was he saying? What is he talking about? And then
I did that. It's like you fell into this this yes man mentality. You just say yes, and you're like, yeah, I'll take care of it, because you want to put out that I don't know, that persona that you know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
And if they tell you this, oh yeah, of course I can take care of that, and you have no idea if you can take care of that because you don't understand what they just told, what they just asked you. Like that's where that kind of insecurity, I feel I should have been more proactive when it came to situations like that, because I did the same thing that Grant did, and that was what Zach said is absolutely true. In the long run, you end up just wasting more time and adding to the frustration.
I gotta add to that though, that I still don't. I still kind of am like afraid of bothering my art director for stuff, but I do, like, now I'm like, you know what? I don't know. Like, if I can't proceed confidently, I'll be like, I'd rather ask the question and annoy him now than later. I think that's...
Well, dude, for like the whole internship, a couple people kept telling me, you need more noise right here, like more detailed noise here. And I kept saying, yeah, and then I would go at it and do it, and then I'd hear it again. I'm like, yeah, no, cool, yeah, I understand. And then I finally got to a point where it was like, all right, fuck this. And I remember going up, and I was like, yo, what do you mean more noise? Like, and I don't mean explain it to me. I mean, come over and do it on a piece, on another layer, because I need to know, because I'm fucking up right now. And I remember I said that to him, and he came over, he did that shit, and I was like, it was like a slap to the face. I was like, oh, holy shit. That's what you mean. I was like, I got it. And I didn't have that problem for the most part for the rest of it. Or at least when they were like, add more noise, I was like, oh, yeah, I know what you mean now. I got you for real now.
Exactly what you mean.
So how long, how many days, weeks, months do you think you went saying yes and before you finally understood what that meant?
That was like halfway through. And then I was trying, I think I even asked Grant one time, I was like, hey, dude, you know how they keep saying more noise? What do they mean? He was like, I don't know. I just do this when they say that. And I was like, man, you're no help. Shit.
And to be fair, I feel like a lot of artists I've met are visual learners for sure. So when Raul would come over and be like, oh, no, this is exactly what I meant, and he'd pop up another layer and just kind of do a quick little like example of what he was talking about, it suddenly clicked, even though he had spent like a week explaining it to me and I just could not get it. And he just does this little scribble, and I'm like, oh, that's okay, that's what you mean.
I use that to my advantage to trick Raul into doing like half of my painting. So a little strategic there.
Wow.
But you know, Raul, I'm still not getting it.
Dude, I just remember it was really funny because I didn't even go to Raul. I went up to like lead illustrator and was like, dude, I don't know how to fucking do this. Come help me. Show me on this layer. And he was like, yeah. And then it took him like 5 minutes, like not even. And I was like, oh shit. And I was doing this for like 2 hours trying to figure out what the hell you meant. More noise. God.
Oh, you're brave. That's like
Damn it.
what everyone else is saying, like Zach was saying, being a bother. I had a really hard time going up and, you know, getting Raul or Derek, because, you know, they were working too. They were sitting there working, and I'd have to tap them on the back and be like, hey, can you come figure out a problem that I'm too damn stupid to figure out myself, please?
Well, no, that's what it was for like half the internship. That's what it was. And then I just got
totally.
so fed up and stressed out that I was like, fuck it, just show me. Like, I don't understand. I'm a fool. Help me the hell out.
Yeah, those guys are very patient with us, that's for sure.
And I think that's part of the gig, you know? Like, you're, as an intern, you're there to learn.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
There's that accountability of, yes, you know, you need to be doing the work and kind of holding up your end, but you can't do that if you don't know how to proceed with whatever the work is, and that's your opportunity to be asking questions and finding out how to best solve that problem.
Well, and to learn to ask questions too.
Yes.
I think that's you kind of learn how to like get because in school you get a prompt and you have like, you know, do an illustration with a frog and he's on a stage, like wacky animals. I do a lot of wacky animal illustration, but you kind of learn like what you don't necessarily get in school is like how to ask questions towards like making a client happy. You can sort of do what you want in school, and you know,
asking the right question.
You're right. Yeah, it's like you kind of learn how to, okay, I need to go gather all the ingredients to make this recipe, and then go and do it. And you don't necessarily know like where all the aisles are until at the end of your internship. You're like, okay, I know what I need to do for this. I know if I'm doing this kind of illustration, generally I'm probably asking like, what kind of material is it made of? Like, you learn what kind of questions you need to ask. I'm still, you know, I'm
all like when you're developing the eye for things. Like, you know that this is looking terrible, but you're not sure why or how to make it better. You're not sure like how to ask the art director, why is this not good? You know, you just can't see it. Like, you can't wrap your brain around it. So after repetition of getting that feedback, you slowly develop like, okay, this is off because, you know, his shoulders are dipped, and this is causing the foreshortening to happening, which is throwing this off, and, you know, all this jazz that can get so convoluted when you get, you know, you're talking about multiple light sources and value changes, and then you get caught up in like rendering ladybugs on swords and stuff, and you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Zoom out, Grant, goddammit. Zoom the hell out.
Yeah.
No, but I guess my mentality got to the point where it was like, if I'm bothering him now for this, it's way better than the bother he's going to get later when it was like he told me to put more noise in it, and then he had to go do it himself on his own time. That's where it got to. I was like, either I can bother him for this minute, or I can bother him for like a whole day tomorrow, and he's going to be real pissed. So that's when I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to admit I'm an idiot. Help me.
Well,
remember this noise you've been talking about for the past month? I have no idea what you're talking about.
It was just like random like texture detail in objects, basically. If that makes sense.
This might be kind of switching gears a bit, but I think it might be interesting for people to hear that, you know, you guys should hear this now, anyone who's listening. The internship really isn't like, you know, it doesn't solve it all. Like, I don't think, did any of you feel like after the internship you were ready to do it? You were like,
No.
did you feel that way after school even? You know, like after school, did you feel ready for the internship? After the internship, did you feel ready for a career? I think the answer is no. But how soon after the internship?
Fuck no.
Did you? Well, yeah. Do you guys want to talk about that, or like how soon after the internship do you think that you started to get it, like, or even like just
start to get what?
Yeah.
Get
I'm still trying to get it, Zach. Tell me.
I don't know. I was asking you guys because I thought you would tell me. I know what I'm doing.
Make it to
I keep an application at Burger King just filled out in my desk drawer. Moment's notice.
Like, I just
run
add
down the street.
to things. That's all I do. Just add noise to it, usually. And that's how I make it.
Dude, I shit you not. I thought about turning tricks at one point. I was like, man, how could I be a male stripper?
Oh, God, you would make no money. Jesus.
Oh no, yeah, that's what stopped me, dude. That's what stopped me. I was like, man, I am too pale and it's not gonna work. So let's just stay on this track.
Dude, you could do it the reverse. Like, you can make people pay you to put your clothes back on. That's potential right there.
All right. You know what? I'm done with you, Grant. I'm done.
What were we talking about?
Well, okay, so for me, for instance, we were working on the same project during the internship that we later got hired freelance for. And that was about like, God, that was about 6 months after my internship stopped. And they started picking it up again. And I don't think I really felt like I was hitting the mark that project was going for until, you know, a couple months into doing that, into getting, you know, paid, and I mean, even like hitting the actual deadline where that wasn't actually even the company set. That was the deadline I had to set to be profitable. And so I would say it was about another year before I really felt like I was, you know, I guess if that's considered a professional level, that's about how long it took me. Like I was beginning to get to that level.
I think I would agree with that, because I had done, I remember before I had graduated, I was probably, I think, the end of my sophomore or the beginning of my junior year. And I remember kind of thinking very optimistically that when my grad show came around, man, I was going to be ready. I could take on the world, and I could apply to the studios I wanted to go to and whatever. And senior year hit, and I started to realize that wasn't going to happen. As hard as I would try and work to make that happen, I knew I was going to have more to learn, and that's one of the things that got me onto the internship. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do the internship, and then when I finish the internship, like, I'll be ready, obviously, clearly. And I, you know, went through the internship, and when I left, I felt like I had learned a lot, but it was time to start applying that knowledge towards personal images. You know, I'd been working for whatever 3 months, doing stuff in a genre that was kind of unfamiliar to me, but the techniques and stuff that I was learning, I could apply towards the stuff I was really interested in. And it was probably another, man, I don't know, it was probably another 6 months before I started to feel like things were clicking. It's like, okay, I'm starting to get this. Like, you know, the stuff that I had learned as foundational elements in school was kind of the base for the more polished stuff that I learned during the internship, and now I'm kind of working that into my own process and my own workflow, and now it's starting to kind of come together as far as quality of work, timeliness, just the overall it factor, whatever you want to say. It started to make sense to me, and that was about the time that I came back for the in-house contract job. And it was largely because of the work that I was doing in my own time, you know, that was kind of head and shoulders, I felt, above what I had done in my internship. That had kind of caught the eye of the studio, and that eventually became my segue going back in. And that's when I felt like I was starting to be like, okay, I'm an artist. Like, this is making sense. It was still a lot of work. There's still a ton to learn, even now. But that moment to me felt like, okay, I'm getting a grasp on this.
It took me. I thought I was, because once they hired us on to freelance after the internship, so I thought I had it. I figured it out because I was confident because I interned with them. I know what they're looking for, and then I almost got fired from that freelancing stint from them because I wasn't hitting the mark. I didn't have someone holding my hand, and shit was real. And so yeah, I thought I had it, and then I just remember there was like a month of just struggling trying to get my work to that level in the proper time. So it was a struggle for sure.
And you had started freelancing pretty soon after your internship ended. Is that correct, or was there like Zach? There was a time period in there that
it was like 2 months, I think, before.
2 months.
Really?
Okay.
I thought it was longer than that, dude.
Maybe, I don't know. It didn't feel like very long. Maybe it was.
It would have to be because it was right after my internship was done, and so that was 3 months at least from when you guys interned.
That's true. So then, Crystal, it would have been for you right after your internship. That's sort of when the freelance picked up. So it's almost like the freelance was a continuation. You kind of transitioned smoothly from the internship into the freelance position. There wasn't kind of a stretch of time where you could sort of, okay, take what you learned at the internship, mix it in with your personal stuff, and then reapply that towards this new freelance gig. You kind of flowed from one into the other.
Yeah, absolutely, and that happened straight out of school, straight out of REMCAT. I went right into their internship, and then from the internship right into their freelance work. So that was a good, probably 1.5 years total of just, I never did any personal work. I mean, maybe a few sketches in between, but yeah, I was just focusing on what they wanted, their style, their property, everything. And that was pretty crazy. I'm really glad that I've learned since then to, take a bit of time to, do my own stuff once in a while, because that was crazy, and it was really hard too. Like you guys were saying, there wasn't anyone holding my hand anymore, so I had to remember everything I learned from all of their steps and apply that to their their freelance things, and it was just it was still a bit of a culture shock because it was like, oh, we got to put on your big girl panties now and do it yourself, not have someone telling you exactly what to do.
Nice. I think my point was sort of to, or one of the points I want to get across is that the internship certainly didn't it didn't end there, and I don't know I think I kind of assumed that I was gonna get a job out of it, and I think it was probably pretty naive to assume that. But if you guys could go back and do anything differently, what would you have done differently, or what do you think? You think it would have changed?
Like internship wise?
Yeah, for your internship.
Oh man, I would have not been so stressed out and worked out over every single piece I had to do, because like we were talking about earlier, putting that pressure on yourself, it's it can be great and it can be really helpful, but it also just can completely beat you down and make you lose all confidence in your work. And it took a while to get that back after that, just because
it can be crippling. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I wish I would have done, is would have been just a little more confident in what I was doing and go home and maybe just relax instead of like, nope, I'm going to go home and do 6 hours of master studies every single night to make sure I can do what they want me to do. So that's what I would have done differently anyways.
I would do a lot of things differently.
You would have gone and ate lunch with me and John. That's what
I should have. Yeah, you know what? And that's actually probably the biggest thing is pride, ego, and making friends and connections earlier, because I hit a very dark period right after graduation, And even during my freelance, where I didn't have any support friend-wise, and that was my fault. Like I wasn't reaching out to see any of you guys, and like y'all had the perfect setup for cultivating like a better workflow, a better work ethic, and more confidence. Like you had it all there set up. I just didn't. Like that's what I would go back and change is make friends and stuff.
All right, I'm gonna go in a completely weird way then, and I'm gonna say the thing I would have changed is I would have researched other internships, and not just like I would have just researched more. You know what I mean? Like I know now that like I didn't do enough of it, and I relied too much on RemCAD, and they weren't a help. Um, and to be honest with you, like if I had other opportunities other than like the two that I knew about, which were that internship that I actually got and the Lucasfilm one that I applied to, if I knew that there were all those other ones that I know about now, I would have applied to way more and then picked one if I ever got any of the other ones over this one.
That makes sense. I mean, I
'Cause
think
it was just like it was just a thing. You know what I mean? I was like, everybody got it, and then
It's like, well, you're not going to succeed if you don't get this internship.
yeah, that's how it felt, and I feel like that in itself was like bad to an
That
extent
is the wrong mentality, yeah.
for me. So, I mean, I would have just like spent more time in it, like and actually did because I still even think that for school wise and everything else even.
yeah, there's like it would sort of felt like I mean yeah, without getting too much into like how far back do we want to rewrite history? I wish I would have been researching a lot more stuff in school, like while I was still in school, because it wasn't until like I knew I was graduating that I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not gonna have time to do an internship if I'm graduating tomorrow. Like it kind of felt like you took for me it felt like I took that internship almost out of desperation,
Yeah,
as opposed to being like I really want to do this internship.
that's exactly what I'm saying.
I never considered like I wonder if I have some family somewhere else that I could move in with and intern at a company that's out there. Like I hadn't even considered that, and I think I think generally it all works out. Like it's worked out for me, but yeah, going back, I think I would have loved to have. Yeah, I have some family in Spokane, and I could have maybe interned with a company in Seattle and had them be kind of a launching point.
Yeah, I was just gonna kind of, add to what you guys were saying about like maybe it was a bit peer pressure based because, with the culture that we all, went to the same school here, that was the be all end all. Like you were considered a good artist and looked up to by current students if you got this specific internship. So
Yeah, and it's bullshit.
yeah, it's for anyone listening out there, an internship might be a great option for you, but also just because maybe your friends are doing a specific internship or a bunch of people did one, like that doesn't mean that you have to do that to succeed. Like there are definitely other avenues, like Zach was saying, instead of doing the one internship that everyone is doing.
I think I would agree with that. Like it was, I think to an extent we all put added pressure on ourselves, which is hard to do. I mean, it's hard to not do.
Yeah.
It's your first kind of professional taste of what that world is going to be like. So like, how can you not be a bit nervous and excited and anxious and all the above? And I think that if there was anything that I would have done differently, I would have tried to have I don't know, I guess reassure myself that this wasn't going to make or break my career. This was a chance to learn. This was a chance to grow. This was a chance to experience new things artistically and figure out how this whole professional workspace kind of runs and operates. But I didn't have to be, driving home in a cold sweat wondering, like, am I not going to be asked to come back tomorrow? Like, that was the kind of headspace I was in, and that was not healthy.
That was a similar story for me.
Yeah, I think all of us, at least in some way, can relate to that, and maybe that's why some of us put that much pressure on ourselves. I know I sure did. I mean, I had no idea there'd be any freelance opportunities after that. I did not think there would be. So I was kind of like, cool, this is it. After this, I have to find some way to scrounge up enough money to pay rent. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do after this internship. So if I do really, really good, maybe they'll hire me on, or maybe, you know, I'll get offered some kind of job with them.
And that's kind of the mentality that you're kind of put on in school, and even like the you know, your parents' older generations, like they, you know, if you go to an internship, you're pretty much going to be set up for a job. Like there's a good chance you're going to get a job. But these days, I feel like it's not the case, and you could get this internship, you might not, but even if you do get the internship and you bust your ass and you work really hard, there's not necessarily a job opportunity at the end of it, and that's something that seems pretty new. You know, a lot of companies are just, you know, well, they need some work done, so they open up and it's, I mean, it's very helpful. Obviously, you learn a bunch, but you're not guaranteed that you know, you'll get the job.
Well, I think it's too. I mean, I don't know, were any of you guys like I was. It felt extra desperate for me. I mean, Dylan, you said this won't make or break you. Like I remember thinking like, Raul got a job. I knew Dylan. I think you were working there at that time, but I was like I could do this. Like I could make this happen. This could be it, and I could get a job. And I knew it was super desperate for me because I was working mornings at Starbucks at the time. Like I was waking up at 3:30 and I would go and open, and then I would come to the internship at like 9 or 9:30. So it was like I was like, I gotta get out of this lifestyle. Like this is my chance. And I wish I could have. I mean, that doesn't even go into internships. That just goes into life, like talk. But I wish I would have not had so much pressure put on there because it just was unfair of that opportunity to expect so much.
I completely agree.
I didn't think I was gonna get a job from the beginning there, to be honest with you guys.
I think we kind of knew because Raul
I remember, yeah.
landed that job, and then we were the interns following up, so there's pretty good odds they weren't looking for anyone else. So I think that kind of took some of the pressure off of us to begin with.
Yeah,
But
I think that might have been why.
A learning environment, which was cool.
Yeah. Cause like if Raul got it, Dylan didn't. Like other people that had the internship didn't. I was just like I didn't. I thought like if any of us was gonna get it, like Grant would have got it over me anyway. You know what I mean? Like I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get anything from this. So that maybe alleviated some of it.
Yeah, I guess we didn't know what else was out there. You know, I know a few of us, it was like, that was it. That internship, that's what you did. And then after the internship, kind of like you guys were saying, you're not ready for the next step. You're like, what the heck do I do next now? Like, I thought that was, you know, I looked forward to that for so long and put so much, like, pressure on that being my goal that, you know, once that internship was up, it was kind of like, oh, crap, what do we do now?
Well, and I'm a little curious actually because I know Zach, you were saying you were working Starbucks at the time. Do you feel like having the Starbucks gig while you were interning? Do you think that kind of gave you any sort of safety net? Because if the internship didn't happen, you'd still have money rolling in, or do you think that it just made it that much harder because you were, you know, putting in that many extra hours and still trying to succeed at this new, you know, creative endeavor?
I remember when I interviewed, they asked me like, so do you have a job? Are you working another job? And I was like, oh, my response was like, oh yeah, but that won't be like, I don't care about cutting hours, like it'll be fine. And they were like, no, like keep that. You need to be making some real money. And I just remember being like, oh, but I would do like anything for this position. Like this is like I would be making art. And it you know, like now with hindsight, it definitely should have been like a comforting thing because like I wish I would have known I wasn't going to be, you know, getting work immediately afterwards. So it was comforting to have a job, but that's like a whole life kind of thing because you kind of can get comfortable and not take risks when you've got a job that is steady. So you know, I had to be willing to say, like, I go up to my boss and be like, look, this thing is really important to me. How can we make this work? And I ended up doing stupid hours because of it. But yeah, I don't know. It was a balance.
Sure. Was any of you guys, were the rest of you working during that time?
At the school.
That you were also interning, or because we were all graduated, correct? We were all
Nah,
graduates.
I still had classes, dude.
You were
I
still
had
doing classes,
classes.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
I had
both of you were.
classes and work, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So what was that like? Trying to juggle an internship, school, work, all that stuff. What was that experience like?
I got a therapist.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to talk to somebody. Like it got to a point where it wasn't something that I could handle by myself. I had to like take a step back and let somebody kind of like explain to me, this is a real situation that you're in. It's unrealistic to think that you could get X results out of these out of this situation that you're in.
Well, I think that's awesome that you did that. You realize the situation and you're like, I can't, physically deal with this. And because a lot of people will be like, no, I don't need help. I can do it myself. And then they just, it just spirals out of control because you're juggling all these things and you're freaking out. You don't know how to mentally handle it all. So I think that was pretty badass to be like.
I asked Raul on the brink of tears. I asked him one day. I said, Raul, how did you do student learning center, school, and this all at the same time? And his response was, I think he said, I didn't sleep or something.
That sounds like Raul.
Oh yeah, no, just cut sleep out of it. That's fine. Just get rid of sleep and you're good to go.
Well, Alex, you just don't sleep.
No, I'm a huge advocate for sleep now. So, because that was like that was the first thing that I changed after I talked to this person. They're like, you gotta sleep, and if anybody's listening, like, sleep and drink water, please. Just do it. Yeah. You will feel so much better. Like, you'll get more work done. You will. I guarantee it.
Sleep, like, you're gonna, you're more time in the day to work, but that time that you are working, you're not. Your productivity level is not there. You'll just be like, so you'll spend all day in front of the computer. You haven't made any fucking progress.
Yeah.
You're brain dead, and you're just forcing yourself to sit there when the smart thing to do is get a couple more hours of sleep, get refreshed, come back at it with a clear head. And that's
you're gonna end up redoing it if you didn't do it right the night that you stayed up.
Nah, sleep is overrated.
That's mastered the art of not messing up.
I will say, Alex, you have big balls to do that, because, like, I was in that situation, and I didn't go talk to anybody, and I should have, because I did not sleep. That was what I was doing. Because I remember asking Raul the same thing, like, how did you juggle all this shit? He was like, yeah, man, he was like, I didn't really sleep. I just did whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll try that.
No. I had thesis. I actually failed out of thesis that semester, voluntarily, but I thought that I could handle the class, the work, and the internship, but I think I invested enough time in the internship, like enough time in the week, like days that I could go, but it was all the stuff after work, school, and the internship where I wasn't going to bed, I wasn't sleeping, and taking care of myself, and then it ended up just like making everything in that process go to shit, like everything messed up. So.
I know I wasn't working or going to school at the time, but it was really tough because at the time I was living with my now husband, then boyfriend, and man, we were like, how are we gonna do this like financially with if I was gonna take 3 months and not work and not pay for half the rent and all that. So we kind of went without groceries for 3 months, and he really wanted me to like do this thing and work some extra hours, and man, that sucked. I know most of us here artists, we like taking pride in being independent and very self-motivating people who can support ourselves. So that really sucks. So for anyone out there listening, like, make sure that you financially are able to do the internship and you're not going to starve yourself over it, because being homeless is a lot worse than not getting an internship. Just saying, that was almost our situation with mine. So careful.
Or just, you know, be like, I don't know. I also, you know, you hear about so many artists who are awesome these days coming up against these crazy adverse like things. Like, I think Darkin talks about how he
Losing your
slept in like a
hand and
crazy
stuff.
mattress
This-
under like.
If
But
you
I
guys
think
haven't heard sorry to cut you off, Zach. I have to say that if you haven't like heard or read Darkin's story about his like coming up in the art world, that thing like kind of put all of my problems into perspective.
Yeah.
Like, I started to evaluate myself. Like, I'm actually doing pretty well. Like, that's with all the stress and everything. Like, I feel like I'm a little envious of you all, and I kind of put, a lot of you. I respect a lot of you for what you did, because I didn't have the job and I was graduated and I was living at home. Like, I had all the opportunities that I could have to be successful at that internship, and I, still felt like it was stressful. And then, like I said, hearing Darkin's story, it kind of blows me away. So sorry to cut you off. I had to throw that out there because
No, it's like I feel the same way. I mean, I was fine. Like, I went out drinking on those nights, even when I was working at Starbucks. But I think the point is that, like, like, I don't think it's necessary that, I don't think by not going through those struggles that your success is worth any less. But be aware of what it's going to take to get to success. And it's unfair. Like, the world is unfair. Like, some people have to go up against more terrible things than other people. But I think, if it's going to happen for you, those are just the facts. And more importantly, it won't be that way forever. Like, it really won't. Like, I was going crazy at Starbucks and just thinking that it was never going to end, and I can't even remember what it was like to work there now. I've just been like working in this industry, but I don't know. It's a very weird gray area, because I do feel kind of some pride for having gone through these crazy times where I was like, working like 18-hour days of just Photoshop and painting, and it was like weird, like waking, sleep, craziness. But at the same time, it sucked. Like, it fucking sucked. And I wouldn't want anybody to have to go through that, but some people do.
Do you feel like, I mean, I suppose you sort of answered it. Do you guys feel like that is sort of a necessary evil, given some of the circumstances, that to I don't know, make greater strides, there are things like sleep or something, or social lives that you're going to have to sacrifice to get ahead quicker?
Absolutely. Like, there's no way around it. If you want to make it, you got to put in the work. And in order to put in the work, like, sacrifices have to be made. That could be your relationship, that could be friends, that could be sleep, that could be eating. Like, there's no, because this what you're doing is fucking hard, and it's gonna test you in more ways than one. And you have to be willing to, all your friends could be going out, and you gotta be like, no, I'm gonna stay inside and paint this fucking ghost man, because that's what I'm gonna do. That's what the choices that I'm making. Like, you have to say no to things, and you have to put. It almost becomes almost an egotistical thing. Like, you have to put yourself first in some ways, but at the same time, you can only do that so much before there's like, you're in a relationship or whatever. There's people you love that are be like, all right, I haven't seen you in like a month. This isn't gonna fucking work if you don't. So then you have to. It's like careful. It's like walking on ice. Like, you gotta play.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Well,
that's a whole other podcast right here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
That.
I think keeping it relevant to the internship thing, and I think maybe some of our audience is still in school, but keeping it relevant to that, I think the earlier you begin to get an idea of how hard you need to work and just how good you need to be, Because we really are like the guys who make it. I feel are like the Olympic athletes of art. I think recognizing that and like addressing it early on, like you're in school and that is your time where you don't like. I mean, hopefully you're fortunate enough to not have to work a job, but that is your time to be like, get your work done. Then the earlier you get this stuff done and out of the way, this work out of the way. I think Dave and Dan talk about this. They're like, if you're 18, start drawing a shitload, and by the time you're 24, you're going to be just total the bee's knees. And so the earlier you can get that initial, like, you got to build up all this momentum, and like the wheels are heavy, and you just got to like run for so long, and you just like the earlier you can get that going, the less hard you have to push, against all this other like having to pay for an apartment and figuring out groceries and all of that, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and to kind of go with that, there was like a little talk that I know Dylan and Alex were all there, but my mentor, John Chidhedi, a couple people asked him that. They're like, hey, what about this crazy artist lifestyle, doing these really hard internships and not sleeping and, not being able to really afford much and just really getting through the grit? Like, is that really necessary? And his answer was, well, that depends. Do you want to get good in 10 years or do you want to get good in 2 years? And that makes all the difference is, how much you put into it is exactly what you're going to get out of it, internships included.
There you go. So,
Yeah.
Start early, and that's hard though, because it's hard to have that mental state of mind of work ethic that it takes to do it, because I did not have it. It took me way too long to develop it. I had to fuck up royally until I figured out like how I was always in the state of denial that I graduate, I'm gonna be good, I'll get a job. And then I was like 2 semesters out and comparing my art to what the professional standard is. And like, holy shit, I'm like doing stick figures here. And this is, I'm like, what the fuck have I been doing this whole time? And that's when I finally, like that terrifying, there's like that fear that motivated me in my last, semester, 2 semesters to really put in that work. And, it's always kind of in the back of my head, which kind of sucks. Like that regret, I should have worked harder then. But, at one point you just got to be like, well, this is where I'm at now. I got the ethic now. I got to push from here and make shit happen. And then that's, what you got to do. It takes some people figure it out early on, and, sometimes it takes a little bit once you have it, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So what would you guys recommend to like say an internship is just not an option? They live in Enid, Oklahoma, and there's like 500 people who live there or something. Like, what would you think would be? Maybe we stick to one thing that you think, do this if you don't have an internship.
Don't take this as my final answer, but get online and don't like get online and like randomly talk to people on the internet. Like, find these people on Facebook and take the time to get to know them. I think like that for me was a huge, like, significant, noticeable step up in the right direction for me. So that would be for my type of person. If you are listening and you're the kind of person that's me, you probably should get out there and like talk to people to cultivate that self-motivation a little more, and then from there you can self-teach.
There's also like internships and things going on now that I don't know anything about those, but I would imagine that's kind of a very similar thing.
Did you say mentorship?
Yeah, mentorship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would have loved that.
Or even just finding peers who, like, even online, who want to do the same thing you are and can help like get you there. That's like this whole group we have here. I mean, I didn't really hang out with you guys in school. I didn't have a whole lot of classes with you. So, but once we all got out of school, we sort of found each other online and have like really helped push each other to where we need to be. And then, down the road when we can afford it, go to like conventions, and you meet incredible people there too. And just like what Alex said, getting yourself out there is so valuable. Even if you just start doing it online, you start making a presence, and and meeting people who are really going to encourage you and support what you want to do and have a similar mindset.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Did you go yet, John?
I think John fell asleep. Wake the fuck up, dude.
No, I'm awake. I'm listening. I'm just trying to think of what my answer would be, and I'm trying to think of something different. Oh man, yeah.
No pressure.
I got one if you want to think. If you want some more time to think.
Go, Zach.
I think you know, the professional experience was a big thing for me because I knew that to be taken seriously, because I ultimately wanted to land a studio job, even though I've been working freelance for like 4 years or whatever. That's a lie. I don't think it's been 4 years. Anyway, the professional experience thing is what I really wanted, and you can't, you know, it's very hard to get that without the internship. And something that Dylan and I did during college, which is, I guess, a little controversial because it's not always paid, is the people doing mods of games, using like the Unreal Development Kit, or like just taking, I don't know, a game that's already out and making a mod or making a whole new game. And you can find those guys. You used to be able to find the groups on like conceptart.org.
I think the big one is it ModDB?
Mod Database now is the big one, yeah. I actually almost did that when I was out of work for a little while and recently. And there's also game jams. That's a little more kind of grassroots stuff. You probably won't be doing anything crazy concept art, but the guys who are doing the game jams are game devs naturally, so they can kind of maybe open you up to projects or something like that. So that's a networking thing, as well as getting a little experience in getting stuff done in a quick turnaround. Like a lot of the game jams are like 24 hours and stuff. Yeah, besides that, like doing projects with friends and having like concrete deadlines, like we have to get this done. That's a good way to get a approximation of the professional environment, you know, without things like pipeline, like working with agile, like the programs that companies use to keep track of stuff that they're doing, like that. I was worried about that because I know we did a little bit of that during our internship. I was like, oh my god, this is this thing that I had no idea they used at companies. Like I didn't know there was software to keep track of stuff. Do you remember that? We had to do our stand-ups in the morning and talk about what we did, or whether we were blocked and stuff like that. You don't get that with necessarily projects with friends, but a lot of those mods, like I remember we were using like programs I hadn't heard of to exchange files and keep track of tasks sometimes. So those are definitely professional things that you can get experience to, or get exposed to without having to have an internship.
All right, so going off of that, I got mine now.
Sweet.
Something I did and I'm still doing when I don't have work is contests. Like I do contests on different sites, different things. A lot of them have pretty big prizes, which are surprising actually. And I've actually won a couple, and then from that either gotten hits from other people that have seen that, or like talking to the actual company that I won that for, or just artists in that community contact you. I mean, even if it's just like little nothings, it still is some kind of connection and some kind of help.
And it helps focus your work too, and you have a deadline that you have to reach.
Yeah, especially, and a lot of these places have so many contests that it's like, you get one done in like a week or in less, then you can do the next one, and then you can do the next one, and then like you're spread out that much, you're bound to win one.
We've got a couple contest winners here, don't we? I mean, I know Zach, you won the NASA contest, and then Dylan. No, this is awesome. I think it's awesome. People should know. And Dylan won the Diablo 3 contest, like all art contests. And Grant, you did the Assassin's Creed 3 one too, didn't you?
It's no big deal. I hung out with Max models.
Well, I'm just saying, like, it's
God
cool
damn it.
like, yeah, submit your shit. You have a chance at winning. You know, we know a lot of people who have won these kind of things. So don't be like, oh, I shouldn't just submit. I'll never have a chance. Like, a lot of people win these things, and a lot of people don't submit.
Yeah,
And for real,
to throw in, that's for sure.
and for real, there was just a contest on Threadless that I entered that the prize was 10 grand. 10 grand.
Woo.
That's ridiculous. Like, if there's stuff like that out there, like, there's a lot of like push to do stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, and if you're getting 10 grand, you're going to be facing off against, you know, some really competitive edge, and that's something that should like motivate you.
Yeah, exactly.
To throw up against and you know really push yourself, and then you can also get to see like, all right, we both had the same idea. This is what I did. This is how this guy handled it, and instead of looking at it as like a negative, like, I suck. Like if this guy won and you didn't, be like, all right, this is what he did. How can I incorporate this or that into my own workflow? And either way, if you have a positive outlook on it, it's only growth. It's only going to make you better. So it's all about keeping that positivity and being, you know, just being able to see things in a positive way as when you compare yourself to, you know, other artists and things. And that's going to be huge.
Well, and I think you guys mentioning contests and stuff, like, you know, there are some pretty cool prizes and stuff out there, and some of that can be cash, and you know, I think that like one of the hard, I don't know, realities of trying to be an artist or whatever, and making this a career path is that it's not all about, you know, the art. Like you have to make a living doing this stuff. So things like contests or whatever can help. And what Zach had mentioned with the mod groups, like, you know, those can kind of give you the impression of working in a professional atmosphere, but it is usually pro bono work, and not unlike, you know, some internships out there. That's another reality that you might have to consider when taking on an internship, is whether or not it's a paid opportunity, and if that's going to be, you know, just another sacrifice that you're going to have to take on to kind of further yourself as an artist. Definitely something to be aware of. I wasn't I wasn't aware that was the reality, really, when I started looking for internship stuff, that there are a lot of companies, and I've heard both in and outside of art, you know, there's I don't know if this is some new thing or whatever. I talked with my parents about this, and the idea of having an unpaid internship to us seems to be pretty, I don't know, like normal. Well, no, but it seems like it's prevalent, not in a good way. It's just it's
It's the reality.
Exactly, it's the reality.
It's funny though, because like a lot of stuff that I've been researching lately, I've been finding nothing but paid internships now. So I don't know. I like hate to throw that wrench in there, but it's like I found about like 6 or 7 that like I would actually do right now if I had to, except I'm not in school anymore.
And that's all the better.
That comes into what you're saying about researching, then.
Exactly.
you take that extra time and really figure that out, because, you know, all of us are like, boom, we're doing this, and then, you know, because I didn't put into any, like, that was like my goal was to get in there.
Yeah, that was one of the hard things for me. Definitely was having to. Like, I mean, they wanted a definitely wanted a time commitment for the internship. Like, they weren't going to just have you come in, like, one day.
Yeah.
But I had to keep
15 to 30 hours or something.
Yeah. So I was in there, I think, I was in there for 2, like, sort of shortened days, and then on Friday I would come in. So I was in there for, like, 3 days a week, and then working, like, on the other days. So you've got to balance, like, that's something to consider before that you take on one of these internships. Is like, I don't think it should stop you, but it's something to consider, is that, like, you know, if you're working a job, the internship is essentially like you need to be there for enough time that you're getting exposed to this stuff and have enough exposure to learn stuff. And if it's an unpaid internship, that can be really hard.
You really gotta weigh your options.
Yeah, I was working weekends too. I think there were some times where I only had, like, Sunday off. It was crazy.
Yeah. It's cray, man.
Indeed. Oh no, I was doing 4 days a week. I was doing 4 days a week of internship, and then I would open on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'd work a full day
Yeah,
at Starbucks on Friday.
I think I made a deal with the people at the people at the internship because I had classes that like I had to hit a certain amount of hours that I actually stayed an hour. I came in an hour earlier and stayed an hour later to make up for that.
Oh, yeah. Because you made Raul come with you too, like because y'all were like carpooling or something, so he would show
Nah,
up.
he was down for it. I could have drove myself, but he was down for it, which was crazy.
I know,
That
like,
was
and everyone else looked like slackers showing up an hour and a half early, and I'm like, not even woke up yet.
He's got that work ethic like nobody I know.
Yeah. I gotta say that was one other part that was, you gotta consider before doing an internship, especially if it is unpaid, is the commute time and then like parking fees if it's gonna be in a big city like ours was, where you have to pay for parking every day, and if you live far away and if your internship's far away, just keep in mind how much you're gonna have to drive and spend gas, and just find a way to account for all of that financially as well.
I rode a bike.
Were
Yeah.
you in the city?
Yeah, I lived real close, actually. The only time it sucked was when it snowed.
Oh, yeah.
And then I would just come in there like with this snowy, sludgy bike, and I had to like walk through all the bull pit of, or what do they call it? The bullpen of all the desks and stuff.
But yeah, so if you have a bike, do that.
Exactly.
It's easy. Problem solved. Just ride a fucking bike.
It really did. I don't want to like. It really did solve a lot of problems. I didn't have to pay for gas. I wasn't fat because of it.
Rub it in,
I
man.
could park anywhere I wanted to.
Rub it in my face.
Yeah, it would have
We're
been.
all impressed.
I could come down there and rub it in your face, John. I know what state you live in, and it's
He'll rub the bike
it's
tire
real.
in your face.
Well, you gotta ride down here though. You can't drive. You gotta ride your bike.
I'm gonna take the Bolt bus.
Okay.
How far are you from Portland?
An hour. The boat bus don't come down here.
Oh shit. I'll bring my
It's
bike.
like you're riding a bike. Well, if you don't have a bike, consider the financial aspects of having to drive far and pay for parking.
Yeah, and finding somebody to carpool with was a help too. Like just going on and off between driving there and back and then paying for parking yourself
Yeah.
and then giving it to them. It
I wish
helped
I
a
would
lot.
have that.
We had a good thing going until you decided to show up an hour early.
I'm sorry, Grant, but like they scared me. I was like, I can't come in these days. I'll do an extra hour, 2 hours.
Did you guys
I'll pay you.
Did you guys ever work any days where you got like free pizza and stuff? I remember I think there were like 2 days where I got free pizza, and that was
Yeah.
awesome. They bought like, and it wasn't like no school pizza party where there were like 3 pies. It was like they had 20 there was so much pizza. Like there was no fear of running out of pizza.
Here, Zach, you can just have the crust.
Yeah, it was like it's only cheese and like the combination one.
Everyone's slapping Zach's hand. Sorry, intern. Nope.
You get 2 pieces.
Like scraps off their.
That'd be so funny.
Here's some saltines.
Go paint. You're not painting.
You can sit back and pretend you're an artist. We know how you think. Oh man.
Actually, I had another internship. I forgot about this, but I had another internship in New York where not only did I get free pizza, but I got to sit in on a cool meeting and drink beer. So
Oh what?
some of you interns have that to look forward.
I did not get to do that.
Did you get to do the game jam thing?
What was this about not being fat? With pizza and beer.
Well, he had a bike. He had a bike.
Okay, so you're allowed.
He just burned it right off.
That's right.
Yeah, well, is there anything we want to tie this thing up? We're already going on like 2 hours or something.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it's getting up there, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think we about covered everything.
I think we did pretty good.
Comprehensive view of the internship, and if anybody does have any questions, We're gonna
Are we
post.
put this on our blog? We got a blog thing going where people want to comment on if there's anything they can add? Are they able to do that?
We could. I know we got the blog. We're gonna have to see if that's an actual like public domain because I'm not exactly sure if
It is.
anyone can comment.
I think anybody can comment, and it's arttrenches.blogspot.com.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, so if anyone's had any experiences with internships or wants to add or anything really would be awesome to hear y'all's experience as well, and if anything conflicting or anything additions, that would be feel free.
Definitely.
Share the information,
Yeah, and if there's anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to kind of hear more about, we're starting to try and plan out what the next podcasts are going to be about. I know we'd like to do something with time management. Very soon.
Oh, yay.
We touched on some of that.
We blew them off this week, so we gotta get them on here.
And I think Crystal had mentioned earlier something to do with conventions. I know we've all kind of had experience with convention stuff, and Crystal and I are actually going to be out in Kansas City next week for Spectrum Fantastic Art Live behind the booth. So if anybody's in the area, come on down, say hi. We'll be at booth.
What's the dates on that?
It's May 9th to the 11th.
Okay, cool. Because next week might not be when we release this.
Okay, so whenever you hear this, it's May 9th to the 11th.
and
Stickers and
be
postcards and
super
CDs.
awkward. Be super awkward to Dylan. It's very appreciated.
But not to me. Okay.
Yeah, no, not to Crystal. Just to Dylan.
Compliment his neck.
Thank you.
Oh God.
Get out of here.
Well, we're gonna have links to everybody's website and stuff. I think you guys are all pretty open to being contacted. If people should have any questions, and definitely go and check out everyone's awesome work. You guys are all fantastic. And we're going to have links to some of the talks that we mentioned earlier because I realized some of you guys might not know what we were talking about. But
Yay.
yeah. Thanks for coming in, guys. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, thanks for having us, dude.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, man.
I know you're not. Guess who's not being invited again?
No! I want to come back.
You're not getting a second. You're not getting a call back, bro.
Man, but I got a lot of angry shit to say. You know?
Yeah, you'll be on the how not to act as a professional episode.
Oh yeah, I know how to do that in spades.
Well, hopefully we were able to help some people out there if they're thinking about doing an internship or if they're in school and they don't know what to do. So.
Yeah, people are here for you. You just gotta reach out and touch someone.
Maybe
Again, another topic for the things.
Respect the bubble. Respect the bubble.
But Grant, that's not what you told me the other day.
Oh well, we know each other. It's okay.
All right.
At a certain level, it's fine.
Good. I'm glad.
Looking's for free though. Looking's for free. Touching's gonna cost. So just wisely.
All right, now we're getting into the After Hours podcast.
Yeah,
This is the one they put on
extended
Sirius.
edition.
This is the one that goes on Sirius Radio where we can curse and.
Yeah, so let's just kill this thing, guys.
All right.
Lingering again. We're getting worse at this. All right, everyone, thank you for coming. It was awesome. Thanks for listening. And we'll see y'all on episode 3 of
Bye bye.
Take care.
Yeah.
Kill it.